It has been a while, folks, but I'm happy to say we are back. Nick McVicker, Josh Palermo from the supporter section here with you. And Josh, man, we got a lot to discuss because we've been out for a few weeks. And granted, there's many reasons why we've been out. Some because, you were performing a couple times with your band.
Playing a couple of shows.
And then I've been coaching recently. Getting into coaching, I should say. We haven't started the season yet, but getting into coaching. So schedules have changed. We're making things work. But, dude, so much has happened over the last month, almost to the day, because our last show was August 19th. It's now September 16th. It's been about a month.
On our part.
Yeah, it's been 4 weeks. So we got a lot to get into. So why don't we jump right into it? We have, let's see, we got MLS action. We got CPL action. We got, of course, our normal scouting report. We got so much stuff going on.
So much.
We might as well just get right into it. And let's start with, let's start with the men's national team, okay? So we're going to start with Canada. We're going to start with the men's national team. And to be honest, they had 2 friendlies recently. And I don't think they could have gone too much better than the way they did.
Yeah.
Overall. I know everyone's a little bit disappointed with the Mexico match, only getting a draw out of that, and the way Mexico played. Everyone was kind of pissed off about that as well. I see it as, hey, we're playing in CONCACAF, folks. We're playing a CONCACAF competitor. Of course it ended up that way. That's exactly how the game I expected. Let me correct that statement because I didn't say that right. That's exactly how I expected the game to go. If Mexico does not go up early or does not maintain possession in the first 20 minutes, it's going to get scrappy. It's going to get tight. They're going to play hard. That's exactly how it went. But let's focus on the first match, and then we'll get to the Mexico match. Because a big 2-1 victory over the U.S. First victory against the U.S. in the U.S. since like 1967, I believe, something like that. Like, just craziness. It has been so long since we've won on U.S. soil against the U.S. And Canada, I know it was a 2-1 match. They could have won by more. They had 7 shots on target, only 2 went in. That shows you a lot right there. So, I mean, all in all, it's a very, very impressive performance after a very strong Copa run, right, Josh?
Yeah. No, I think that it is exactly what you had wanted to happen from our standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, you come in there against a scuffling U.S. side that is they had, at that point, not yet had Postecoglou confirmed as the upcoming coach. Oh, no. Pochettino. What am I saying? Pochettino. Right. So like they're at a weird transitional point, and Marsh has got we played well in the Copa America, and Marsh has really gotten this system down, like the maple pressing thing together, and it worked out really well against the U.S. side that didn't know how to effectively play out of the back, and that was the big thing for us. We capitalized. That's how Schaffelberg scored. We capitalized on that opportunity. I think the pieces are all operating quite well together. I think Matthew Soignier played phenomenally. I was really happy to see him in that holding midfield position. And I think that's what we wanted to look at this international window was to sort of say, who are the guys who maybe didn't get all of the light in the Copa America, and how can they fit into this team as rotational pieces? I think we saw that a little bit more in the Mexico match. But yeah, overall, it's a big win for us. From a U.S. standpoint, I wonder if they felt like it was as important as we did in a way,
They did. They did. Yeah, I follow a lot of the U.S. soccer people on social media. They were not happy post-game. They were not happy post-game. Now, I think they also understood that they didn't actually have a coach in place. So you have to take that with a grain of salt as well. But, yeah, they were pissed off that Canada beat them 2-1 on home soil.
No, and that's just, that's a big thing for us, and it's can we do it consistently? And I'm excited about, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but just like the other tournaments that are upcoming this summer. And that I think that's just what you want to see from a Canadian standpoint is good, consistent performances. And we played well. We played well in the game against the United States, and we did our high press well, and it all worked out. Concerns with regards to the Mexico match, I was in and out on my feelings about this one. In that, I definitely had that general sense of frustration. It was just like it pissed you off, right? Like just that Mexico was not playing football. They were there to body us.
Yeah.
Right. But also that's to be able to stand your ground in those moments is what makes you a good team. You know, if you're coming and watching these matches and you've watched a lot of European football, I think that you're not always going to understand it. And what the unique thing is about this Canadian men's national team is that if it has that grittiness to it, if it can stand the test in CONCACAF, and we bring that over to, in a World Cup setting when you're playing European nations, that's huge. That's what makes you different. That's what, with the South American sides, they're scrappy. So in Argentina, when they come into the World Cup, that's a big element of their game. It's not always going to be this really beautiful football, right?
No.
And so that's what you want from this side. That's what you need in this federation. And it was, I think, it's tough. So from that standpoint, I think we played well considering that everything that Mexico threw at us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a shit show, for lack of a gong show. It was as what it was.
It was a gong show.
So the other thing though is our finishing is just bad, and it's something we talked about in the Copa, and it's something that concerns me. I don't know if you can put an ease to my concerns at all, Nick.
No. What I can say though, that might help a little bit, is that the consistency seems to go away when these guys are at club. So there is a chance that we could see it more consistently with the national team. It's hard. It is very, very hard to score goals at this level. Let's not mince words about that. These guys are the top of the top defenders, the top of the top keepers that you are going up against consistently. And when these guys are showing it at the club level, which we have seen from the likes of Jonathan David and even Kyle Larin for a long time, and Tony Oluwaseyi this year as well. I want to throw him in there because he got some playing time as well. When we're seeing consistency at the club level, that gives me confidence that they can find it at the international level. And the reason is because you're going to get more comfortable with the guys you're playing with at the international level at some point. You have to.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to have to become a comfort level thing for you. So if I'm consistently seeing Kyle Larin, Jonathan David, Tony playing out there consistently together, they're going to have that ability to be like, okay, I know my teammate's in the right spot, so I'm just going to go for this goal, right? I'm going to hit it cleanly. Do I think it's going to happen anytime soon? Unfortunately, Josh, I'm not going to ease your mind a little bit because I don't think it does. I think there's some struggles there up front when we're really talking about it. I'm trying to give you the glass half full idea with the consistency. I don't know if we're going to find it with this group of strikers. Maybe Tony, he's young. We can bring him in, and he could be the cog that turns the wheel of our attacking force. And maybe him and Jonathan David have a really good connection, right? And they become the starters. And maybe it's just a David with Larin sort of thing that they struggle with that balance. You know what I mean? There's a lot of what ifs, unfortunately, in that statement. But do we have the ability to score? Absolutely. And we've seen it from our midfielders have gotten involved over the last 6 months. We've seen more of our defenders on set pieces get involved. That's a positive. If you're getting goals from outside of your attacking third, that's a good thing. But you also need goals from the attackers, right? That needs to happen. And as good as Schaffelberg is scoring, he can't be your leading goal scorer over a calendar year.
No, you hope not.
Right? Alphonso Davies can't be your leading goal scorer over a calendar year if he's your left back, right? 100%. Even if he's your left wing, he can't be your leading goal scorer over a calendar year. It needs to be your strikers.
Yeah. And I think that is sort of the thing that people have to recognize too. It is still a team in transition. You know what I mean? Albeit that we had this
They're further along the transition, but yes, exactly. They are in transition.
They are. And I think I have to remind myself of that too, because that's just it. To think about how quickly Jesse Marsch has tried to turn around this squad, from footballing philosophies, from calling in different guys, that's a lot. That's a big thing to undergo. And I think when you continue to see these positive performances from a team standpoint, that's really big. And then it's just about figuring out those individual players. And I think honestly, what it feels like we're lacking is a solid number 10. And I talked about this, David's playing in the 10 right now. And during the Copa America, I wanted to see him at the 9. And I think that we haven't necessarily seen Larin get off the schneid. And I think that it is fair to say the floodgates will open once he gets one, But
I think so.
That's it. What do we do when it comes time for the Nations League? You know what I mean? Do we at what point do we say we can't just keep giving the same guy chances because it doesn't seem to work out just yet? And where are those solutions going to come in? I still think that it is moving David up to the 9, in my opinion. You know what I mean? The problem is we have a hole in that we don't have a dynamic number 10 I think like David is that dynamic number 10, but you lose his prowess as your target man in the center as the number 9, right? So I think what I'd maybe like I don't know who do you see somebody who could fit that dynamic role, because David does a wonderful job of that, dropping deep into the midfield, creating opportunities, wonderful link up play. He was pretty instrumental in creating that goal, that the Schaffelberg goal in the first in the match against the United States. So like he plays that role so well. And then it's like, maybe do you leave him in there and you hope that Tanny can get it together? Is he becoming more a viable option? Which is a crazy thing to say when you think about the fact that it's Kyle Larin that we're talking about here, best goal scorer. You know what I mean? In the men's national team history. So
most goals in the national team history.
Do
you truly think he's the best goal scorer in national team history?
It's a fair point.
Do we want to go? And listen, I am very impressed with how Kyle has made a career. Okay? I'm not trying to take anything away from Kyle, but this is a serious question. Is he the best goal scorer that the national team has ever seen? I would absolutely say no.
Yeah.
Mostly because there's a better goal scorer on the national team right now, in my opinion. But
and that's just it.
Kyle has done a great job at finding the right times to score, and he's done it a lot. And that's why he's the current holder of the most goals for the national team in history. And you can never take that away from him. I'm not saying he's a bad goal scorer, but I do think Jonathan David is a better goal scorer than Kyle Larin.
No,
I also think Dwayne DiRosario is a better goal scorer than Kyle Larin, or was a better goal scorer than Kyle Larin is.
Yeah.
So let's just be safe with that word.
That's fair. That's fair. I have to be careful. That's just it. We're talking about stats versus class. 100%. I think Jonathan David showed that on the goal that he scored in that match. Right. But anyways, aside from that, also just to wrap things up quickly on these matches, there was more wonderful stand-up performances. Like, it was nice to see Ali Ahmed in there. And I think he played really, really well. And like, that conversation as well. But we have a very good set of goalkeepers in that we can switch very seamlessly between Crépeau and Dan Sinclair, which have been massive for us.
Mm-hmm. It's still Crépeau's net in my opinion, but yes, we can switch between.
100%. But like, that's just we have all of the pieces, and we are putting together those performances. So actually, this is where I want to transition it quickly. Okay. With that being said, we have 2 chances, or is my finger? Get my fingers in front of it. 2 opportunities to win a trophy. Right? Because we have the Nations League final coming up.
Yep.
And then we also have a Gold Cup happening this summer.
Yep. Next summer.
Next summer.
We're in 2024. It's happening in 2025. Let's just.
More errors on my part.
I'm just keeping you honest, buddy. That's my job here.
It's bullshit. Yes. No. 100%. Next summer we have that upcoming. So I think that those will be pivotal. Those will be huge, and I think that's what we're working towards, right? So again, these matches reflect that, and then it's just to say, what do those squads look like heading into that tournament, and are those both? Do we have to win both of those tournaments?
No.
No.
Can we win both of those tournaments? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are we expected to win both of those tournaments? No.
I think we have to. I think that.
Explain why. Explain to me why you think we have to. And keyword being have to, because that's the same as need to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
I think for the confidence of Canadian fans, for the confidence of the squad, when you have a run like you did in the Copa America, I mean, I myself was pissed off that they couldn't even get a bronze, right? Yeah. I think that we need more in the trophy cabinet heading into the 2026 World Cup. That's what we need. And these, if you want to have this conversation about kings of CONCACAF, how are we going to do that if we're not going to claim any more, like if we can't win the Nations League and we can't win the Gold Cup? I think there will be a lot of questions asked of the squad. You know what I mean? Not in a dramatic way. You know what I mean? Again, Marsh has to take the time with the squad. He's trying to apply what feels like a club football system into a national team setup, which is a little bit hard to always effectively communicate those ideas, albeit he's done a wonderful job of that. And it feels more of an issue of sort of personnel at this point with regards to consistent performances. But they have to. Absolutely no questions asked. If you want to prove that you are the best team in CONCACAF, you have to win both of those tournaments. And it's the best time to do it, I think. It's the best time to do it. I mean, the United States, they will have something to prove, right? Yep. But no, I think both of those are hard tournaments, and we have to win them for the future of this program and heading into the 2026 World Cup, because we can't sit here and say we're the best, but not actually prove it.
Okay, fair enough. Can I argue you here for why I don't think it's a necessity to win as long as we perform well?
I'd love to. I'm all ears.
Okay. There have been a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 16 nations have competed in the Gold Cup since its inception. Okay? 16 different nations. Where do you think Canada ranks in top 4 finishes among those 16 nations?
But
Take a guess. Just take a guess. 16, remember that. And we're considered one of the top 3 countries in CONCACAF for the most
I
part.
don't know. Like twice?
No, where they rank among the teams of 16. So
Oh, I
where,
see what
where
you're
in
saying.
the 16?
Sorry.
Have they finished
Where
in
do
the
I think-
top 4? How many? Where do they rank among finishing in the top 4?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So out of the 16 teams, where does Canada rank?
Yeah.
Out of the top 4.
When they with top 4 finishes. So they've made it to this. How many times have they made it to the semifinals? These nations. Where does Canada
Okay,
rank
so-
for
okay.
making to the semifinals at least?
Yeah. So how often have we done that?
Yeah.
Okay. Shit. I know we made it to the semifinals of the last one.
No, we didn't. Oh, yes, we did. Sorry. Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's like 5. We've done that 5 times.
No, we've done it 4 times, and we rank 7th out of 16 nations for making it to the semifinals. Do you want to know why? Because CONCACAF is not a normal tournament. Let's be honest. It is a hard tournament to play in. It comes down to the referees. It comes down to the field conditions. So much goes into the CONCACAF Gold Cup. So, and Nations League is going to be even worse because the pitches are inconsistent across the time. Right? You're not playing on the best pitch in the U.S. because, let's be honest, that's where the Gold Cup usually ends up being played. You're not playing there. You are playing on crappy pitches in Nations League. So, while, yes, I do expect Canada to go far, and I think anything less than a finals berth in these 2 tournaments is considered a disappointment, I'm not saying they have to win the tournaments. If we play really well against CONCACAF teams in CONCACAF conditions against CONCACAF style, I think that is very, very beneficial. Because guess what? Going into the World Cup, we're not going to see that. We're not.
Fair.
We're going to be playing European and South American teams. And yes, some of the South American teams kind of play like CONCACAF, but not in the World Cup. It's not the same. Let's be honest here. So, good performances are more important to me as long as we get to the finals. If we don't get to the finals, then it becomes a disappointment and we can scrutinize the performances a little bit more. But if we get to the finals in both tournaments, give ourselves a chance at 2 separate trophies, that's a success heading into the World Cup, in my opinion. So they don't need to win it. Is that a good counter argument to you, Josh? Do you see what I'm saying?
I can see what you're saying.
Okay.
I think that
You don't have to agree with me. I'm just making sure that my counter argument is good.
Exactly. I know. I see you. I see you.
So we have struggled in this tournament, the Gold Cup, consistently. To put it into perspective, Brazil has made 1 less semifinal than us in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, there you go. Wonderful. That's what you like to hear.
Right? That's not exactly
That's
encouraging stat.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's an interesting tournament to say the least.
That's not. And here's the crazy thing: Brazil's only played in 3 CONCACAF Gold Cups,
exactly,
and they've made the semifinal every single time.
I would expect so from Brazil. I think.
but you know,
not
but that's
great
my
for us.
point
It's
is that
not-
they've
that's- it's a
almost
reflection,
tied us in semifinal berths, and they've played
bad.
1 less tournament than we've played in semifinals.
That's bad.
Right?
It's not good, though.
It's just showing how tough this tournament can be, just because of the style of play more than anything. Because we have incredible talented players, and we've seen that, right? But can they play the style that is needed to win a CONCACAF tournament is the question. Because now a lot of them are playing European, right?
Yeah, no, I think that in the game, like the Mexico game, is your good barometer for that.
Yeah,
that's a good metric. So good performance.
Yeah,
lots to look forward to.
Lots to look forward to. And speaking of lots to look forward to, the women's under-20 team did pretty well at the World Cup recently, and we got to talk about that because I was thoroughly impressed with how this team competed and showed up at this tournament because they were not in an easy group. Let's make that very clear. They had a very, very tough group. They had Brazil, they had France, and they had Fiji, who, okay, that Fiji game was pretty easy. Let's not mince words about that.
But they still have to show up.
They still have to show up. But, I mean, they did lose all their games by a score of at least 9-0.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Canada 9-0, Brazil 9-0, France beat them 11-0, which screwed Canada in the end, but whatever.
That was the unfortunate thing, and they pressed hard. Canada pressed hard against Brazil in that final match and ended up kicking us in the butt.
It is what it is.
But that's just it, right? No, I think we felt the pleasures of the expanded tournament, but like there was so much in that Fiji game that was absolutely incredible from this team.
And I want to let's talk about the tournament as a whole for the team, instead of just the Fiji match. So 3-3 tie against a very good France team who is still in the tournament, I believe. Are they still in it? No, they're out, actually. My apologies.
No.
I thought
I'm trying to think of the semifinals off the top of my head.
Semis are U.S. and North Korea, and then Japan and Netherlands.
Yeah.
So France lost to the Netherlands in extra time. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyways, 3-3 draw on match day 1 against France. Rose, Marcassini, and Chukwu all with goals for Canada.
And what a goal was Chukwu's goal. Have mercy. Coming off the byline there. Oh.
We'll get into that. Don't worry. We'll get into her because I got a lot to say about that player. Then the second game, 9-0 against Fiji. You had Smith with 2, Chukwu with 3, Briggs with 2, Audie and McBride each adding 1. And then obviously the 2-0 loss to Brazil, but it was really a 1-0 game. Brazil added 1 in the 90th plus 9. So, it was 1-0 at the 90th minute. Let's be honest here, right?
Noah Henning got caught out. It was tough. It was
right.
Tough.
It is what it is.
It was 1-0.
But Canada advances through to the knockout round as the best third-place team. By far, they were 6-goal differential better than the second-place, third-place team. That sounds so stupid in my head, but whatever.
Well, that's why the Fiji match was so crucial.
It was. It absolutely was. And then they go on to play Spain, and they end up losing 2-1 to Spain in that match. Jord with the goal for Canada. And again, they actually went up 1-0, gave a goal away 2 minutes later to make it 1-1 to Spain, and then 81st minute goal ended the Canadian run. But all in all, a very, very impressive tournament for the Canadians. Rose was fantastic throughout. We knew she was going to be a leader on that team. No real surprise there. And then if we're talking about, we mentioned Chukwu already. She will push. Annabelle Chukwu will push to be on the women's national team in the next couple of years. I have no doubt in my head.
I think that she will be like the key piece for the Canadian
key striker team. For sure, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Because we don't have that.
No.
And she's had 2 call-ups where she hasn't featured in matches, but like November 2022 and September 2023, she got called to the senior side. Yeah. So she's been part of camps there. She's seen what it looks
17.
Like. Yeah, that's just. But
no kidding. She didn't play.
Of course. But like I think it's huge for her to be able to get that experience.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
To be in those environments in the national team set up for that long. Already drawing comparisons to Christine Sinclair. Of course, she broke that record.
I was gonna say, when you break the youth scoring record, that's usually what's gonna happen.
When you break the youth scoring record, is what's gonna happen. With 29 goals, she's at now, which is massive.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah. No. It's very exciting, and that's just it. I think what we need is a striker. There's been so much exciting youth that is already like in the Olympic squad. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like with Jade Rose featuring
Olivia
and
Smith.
Simia Wuju, Olivia Smith. You know what I mean? Was she? Yeah. Was she in the World Cup? No, sorry, I meant the Olympics. Was she?
I don't know if she was.
She didn't make the 18
because wasn't she hurt technically, like leading into the tournament or something? There was something wrong because she should have made the team. I think we all agree.
Yes, we talked about it, but she didn't crack the 18 for whatever reason. It may be.
But she played well in this tournament as well, by the way. Just want to throw that.
Yeah, 100%. Another big shout out to Olivia Smith. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how things play out for in the WSL with Liverpool. I think that season starts this week.
Yep.
WSL. So like that'll be huge. Like there will be a lot of fun. And you got Simi Wuju playing for Manchester United women as well.
Yeah.
So
Man U.
Exactly. the WSL will be big for some Canadian talents. Yeah, no, but I think that the Spain performance was the most complete performance. It
Agreed.
was it was a sad way to end it. You know what I mean? And I think it
But
spoke
it's
to
a
some of the
very
issues.
good team. Like,
What they're defending champions,
yeah, it's a very,
right?
very good team.
And they've won it. They've won the World Cup at all levels at that like within the last couple of years,
Yeah.
right? Like obviously the senior team just won it last summer, and then in 2022 the youth team won the under 20 World Cup, and I think they won the U17 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So to have a performance like they did, where they let Spain play with the ball, but we pressed well, defended well, like and to go up first was massive. Like one of my stand-up players was Florian Giroud, who I
Yep.
think was a fantastic number 10. Like just dynamism, ability to find the pass, but also like she defended quite well, which was like it was a cohesive performance through and through. She really shunned. She wore the captain's armband. She stepped up. Like so, and then like, she was a big stand-up player. Quickly,
Yep.
because I got a couple of them. But like she completed the most crosses with 11 in a Fiji match. She on to her with being a very dynamic number 10. She had the most offers to receive in the Brazil match with 63. To clear up what that means is just to create an avenue for a pass to be made, just like with the movements that she made, right? And very, very good off the ball, right?
Yep.
And then in the Spain match, she had the most pressing applied out of both teams combined, right? So like another exciting midfielder coming through the ranks, which I think is massive.
Yeah. There's some big names on this list, and I'll add more later. Is there anyone else who stepped up for you?
Noah Henning to me was like phenomenal.
Oh, she's incredible.
Like it was she obviously didn't start the first match, right?
No.
Fenwick had started.
Faith.
Faith Fenwick had started that match, has that little gaff playing out of the back, which was unfortunate. But Noah Henning stepped up in the second match, played extremely well against Brazil and Spain. She had 21 goal preventions against both sides, and like she just some standout saves, just some like brilliant saves, like off the free kick in the Brazil match. She had some big saves in the Spain match. My three standouts were Chukwu, obviously, Florian Giroud, and then Noah Henning. Just like they're so young, and they're stringing together some phenomenal performances. So like it's left me with a lot of optimism. You know what I mean? Like we made it to the knockout stage of that tournament for the first time since 2014. When we had players with like Jordan Heidema on that squad. Like it's definitely the youth movement is happening. There's some wonderful players there, and those were some big results. Sinitai did a great job with his team. Like it's exciting.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I'm going to throw a couple other names out there for people to keep an eye on, if you don't mind. Because one thing that most people aren't going to see these players a whole lot unless you're paying attention to League One or the Whitecaps out in BC, the Whitecaps Academy, which plays in the League One BC, and the Montreal Academy, which kind of plays in League One Quebec. It's a whole thing. Don't get into it. Don't worry. There are some really, really good players, and Chukwu is one of them. You want to talk about Maya Archibald, the defender, number 2. She's fantastic, plays in the Whitecap system. I got a chance to watch the NDC show, commentate on the NDC showcase last December, so I got to see a lot of these NDC players. Whew, they're really good. And if you want some to keep an eye on that maybe didn't showcase but did play a lot, Genevieve Hernandez-Gray, the midfielder, she's going to be a player. She's just as old as Chukwu. The 3 of the 4 youngest players on the team, in my opinion, played phenomenally. Chukwu, Hernandez-Gray, and Noel Henning. You already mentioned her. The other two that are 17 are Rosa Mayouf, who I thought looked good when she was on the pitch, but didn't play a ton in this tournament. But that means she probably still has a chance to maybe play as a U20 the next tournament. You know what I mean? And Jamie Perreault, another player from the Whitecaps Academy. All 5 of those players are 17 years old. 17. Playing in the U20 tournament against the top players in the world, and they all perform very, very well. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they continue that kind of forward momentum. Jada Collin as well is another one of those NDC players that I think didn't play a whole lot in this tournament, but is a name to keep an eye on moving forward for national team stuff. She's only 18, so we got a few years before she's with like the main national program, but keep an eye on her as well. There's some really talented players in this U20 group, and I'm excited to see how many of them we can turn into national team players, because that's the biggest question, right? How many of your youth national team players make it to the senior national team level and can play at that level of consistency? That's the hardest thing. Yeah. So let's see how many of these names that we just talked about can make it there in 5, 6, 7 years, right? Give them to 24 years old, some of them. Well, let's see how many of these girls can make it to the senior national team, because if all of them do, it's going to be a very, very strong core, I think, moving forward for the women's team.
100%. No, and like that, it's an interesting thing when you analyze youth tournaments like this,
yep.
because it's hard, it's difficult. You're not always going to get the best team performances, and that's what I think is the sort of unfortunate thing when it comes down to it, because it felt like it was the fine margins that hurt Canada in this tournament, set piece stuff, and also like playing like those level of matches in a short time span is a lot for these players. So you really have to focus on those individual performances. And I think that there's a great sample size of a lot of wonderful players, and that will, I truly believe, have an impact on the women's national team. It's always hard to say, right? You never know when
we have no idea.
Happen.
There's lots that can go on between now and then. Let's be honest.
Exactly. That's the thing. But I think that there's a large crop of fantastic, talented players that have the opportunity for some wonderful development. So we just got to all see how that pans out. I think that the surefire name for me is Chukwu. You know what I mean?
I think 100%. I don't think that's a question. I think
exactly
she could be pushing for the national team next year as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Livy Smith did, right?
Yeah.
So you want to see more stuff like that. The youth movement is huge, and it's just the NSL, the Northern Super League, is going to, I think, play a very pivotal role, obviously, in that.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
It's a very, very exciting time coming out of the Olympics, which were another gong show, a dark time for the women's national team, right? So I'm
going to push back on that point, because I don't think the Olympics was a dark time for the women's national team. I think it was a dark time for Soccer Canada.
Fair enough.
Because I think the women's national team actually showcased well at the Olympics.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was amazing. To be able, under the circumstances, go and put out the performances that they did were monumental. I think it all comes together at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
No, you're right.
Go ahead. It's a good thing to point out. It'll be interesting to see what who is at the helm moving forward with the women's national team. Like Jesse Marsh, right, has talked about the importance of cultivating the youth and really trying to do his best to sort of, I don't want to say reform, but just work on cultivating the young talent in Canada on the men's side of things. So can we get because I've written Bev Priestman off. That's right. Like, is that even a question?
No.
So it's just about, I think, who do we then get at the helm, who's going to implement their system, and how does the development of the youth play into that, and what does that sort of look like, which will all be very interesting to get to.
Agreed. And I think there's a lot that's going to need to happen in order for us to see those results. There's a lot that needs to change, and it's going to take a while. But we could see very quickly that this women's national team is stronger than they were with Christine Sinclair when they won the gold medal at the Olympics. We could, because the youth movement is growing fast. We're seeing players sign all over the world, from League One, from universities, everything, which is a positive sign. So the growth of the core base of the women's national team has been really good. So I'm excited to see where that ends up. Anyways, we gotta move on here, Josh. We got a lot to talk about, and we're already 30 minutes in, so we got to keep it going. CPL, lots of stuff going on in the CPL. First off, let's get to the transfer deadline day came and went. Roster freeze took hold on the 13th, so no more changes will come. couple big moves on transfer day. I'm going to list out some of them. You let me know what you think about these ones, and we'll go from there. First off, the now in hot water John Herdman's son, Jay Herdman, has joined Cavalry. He's been loaned by the Whitecaps. Good move, bad move? Do you think it's going to help them? You're allowed to say no.
It wasn't necessarily a huge standout move for me. It seems like more of a depth piece that they're going to be able to add to give the team more options. I don't know. That's how I took it anyhow. I think this Cavs side is very strong. I think they showed that in the last match that they just played, but we'll get to that. So it wasn't anything that stood out to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think you're not wrong in that. I think it's more of a, hey, we have the opportunity to add a player who we think could help down the line. We're going to take the opportunity to bring him in and make sure that we're completely solid going forward. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
nothing wrong with that either. I can't fault them for doing that. Forge adds 3 Sigma players, which is not news to anybody. They do that all the time. But they also add League One standout Orlendis Benitez from Simcoe County. He is a talented I shouldn't really say young player because he's in his later 20s, but he's a very, very good young player. And I think he's a good ad. What about you?
No, I think that's a big move, especially when you have Kwesi Poku who left the squad, right? I think that's what Forge needed to be able to do, was to fill in some of those gaps there. He had a short stint with them in 2022.
Yeah.
So to be back now, coming off of the form that he's had in League One, I think is huge, and I think he will be a good piece for Forge to add.
I agree wholeheartedly. Forge also adds a Greek veteran in Victor Klonaridis. I hope I said that right.
You did good. I think you did good.
He's been all over. He's played for AEK Athens, Panathinaikos, Lille, Lens. He's kind of played all over, which is pretty good. So that's a veteran piece for a very, very strong defense. I don't know how much he's going to play with the way Forge plays defense, but add depth for the playoff run, I can't really fault them on this one.
Exactly. One of the more shocking moves, I think, in my opinion, because it's a bit of a weird pull, I think. But that's just it. They're going for the Shield. They're going for another championship.
They're going to try to bring it back home.
Exactly.
Which is annoying to everybody in the CPL.
Exactly. And they're bolstering the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. Wanderers bring in Nazem Mkendiche, formerly of Valor, and ultimately signed in the MLS Next Pro with Sporting KC after leaving Valor in 2022. Left-footed defender, 21 appearances, and has played over in Tunisia as well recently. So bit of an international feel, and contract runs through the 2025 season, so he's there for a year and a half. I kind of like this deal for Halifax. Something that I think they need more of is just consistent defending. What about you?
Yeah. No, I think that's been their biggest problem.
They're dead last, so that's obviously a big problem.
Obviously, yeah. But we're seeing it. I think that there's a lot of positives coming at this end point of the season for them. Yeah. And I think the fact that this deal runs through to 2025 is huge. I think that they're slowly building a very strong core. I think there are a lot of good players on this Wanderers side. So I'm excited about that. And they're not completely out of the playoff picture, right? They are dead last, but Vancouver is in 5th place right now on 26 points, and the Wanderers have 23.
Yeah. The season's not over for them, for sure.
No. I think that's what makes it really interesting. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think that's a great addition for the squad.
And another great addition, they bring in David Mavakala. I'm struggling with names today. Mavakala on a dev deal from CF Montreal. So that's another Canadian team loaning out or putting a dev deal together with a CPL side. We like that. We love that. The 21-year-old wing back can play both the left and right side as well. So versatility for Coach Patrice Geshar to bring to his lineup. Again, I like what the Wanderers did, and it also helps the fact that he's under 21, so he can help them boost their U21 minutes because they need 700 more U21 minutes just to be able to qualify for playoffs. So that'll help. I would say.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Him alone, if he could
addition.
play 7 matches, that puts them at, 63, 630 minutes just for him, if he can play all 90 minutes. So you only need to find 70 minutes somewhere else. And then...
No, I think the Wanderers are going to be an exciting team to watch as the season draws to a close.
An interesting team to watch. And then we kind of, but not officially, had a player-for-player move with Vancouver and York, but it's 2 separate moves. I want to make that very clear, but one player's going from York straight to Vancouver, one player's going straight from Vancouver to York, so we're going to call it, we're just going to group them in, and you can tell me which one you like more. York bringing Kemba Kibato. Young guy, can kind of play all over, but very, very quick guy. I like the way he does play. And then going the other way, Austin Ricci heads out west to Vancouver to join his former teammate Nico Giantsopoulos and Paris G out on the West Coast. I'll get your opinion first, and then I'll add mine in. But what do you think of both these moves, and which one do you think is going to help their team more?
This was a standout one for me. Out of all the deadline day moves, it was a big shocker, I think, and I think, as I mentioned off air, was something that I didn't think really made sense at all for York, because we have midfield depth. Sorry, they have midfield depth. They have midfield depth.
They have a lot of midfield depth, yes.
It was really weird. I think it's a bad send-off for Austin Ricci, who was a fundamental part of York 9. Obviously, he left, went to Valor, came back. Like, pretty brutal in the way that happened. I don't know if that was one of the reactions that I had. I don't know if I'm one of the only people to think that, but it was just like really huge lack of respect for him there. And I think a weird move in that I don't think that the midfield needs more depth. I think particularly in the match that they played on Friday night, they needed an out and out target man 9. Like he's a good dynamic player. You know what I mean? He can bully guys off the ball. He's been good this season, right? And like he's just got healthy. The guy just got healthy. Why? Why is this what ends up happening? Hopefully it's a good move for him personally, but as a fan of the club, it was something that I was not at all thrilled about and something I could not wrap my head around. And I think a funny aside, I was like reading the preview that I don't know who wrote the article, but that the CPL had put out,
right?
Just previewing the match that was happening on Friday, and they actually had Austin Ricci starting in their predicted 11.
Yeah.
A few hours later, he's no longer on the squad. So it was crazy move. But I mean, the Eagles are trying to do something in their push for the playoffs. And I don't know, it's kind of funny to see a few former York lads out there on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that run goes. I think it's a good addition. I think it's a good addition for Vancouver. Yeah. I think it is a good addition for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of what York gets, the other way in oh my gosh, why am I Kemba Kiboto?
Kibato.
Kembo Kibato.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Don't worry, I mess up names all the time. I'm just trying to make sure we get it right on this show.
It's important. It's important. No mistakes. Now we'll see how much he features. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think that York has a pretty stacked midfield to begin with. So like if you're talking about who won the trade, it wasn't a trade.
It wasn't a trade.
There were transfers, but the effective swap deal goes to Vancouver for sure. I think that Ricci is an interesting piece to add into that squad, and I'm excited to see how that turns out. But yeah, when you think about like Santiago Marquez, Juan Cordova, Elijah Adekubi, like it's such a I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see Kembo Kibato stepping in there, but maybe we'll call it a depth piece and move on.
Nothing wrong with adding a depth piece, especially for a playoff run. Like I don't mind the addition. There's nothing wrong with the addition. But they are fairly set in their midfield, so I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But they were also dealing from a position of strength, in my opinion. When everyone's healthy, their attacking group in York is very, very strong.
That's true.
Whereas for Vancouver, if I list off their like attackers on the CPL site, you know, when they don't actually say what position the guys play, it's attacker. They have Gabby Bitar, who we know is a talent. Like he's a guarantee. Sebastian Zikowski, Alejandro Diaz, Jose Navarro, and Aimon Seluf.
Yeah.
Listen, if I'm Vancouver and I'm looking at the fact that we have the opportunity to potentially add an Austin Ricci, I'm jumping at that. I'm trying to my best to go get him because he makes that group look better immediately.
100%.
Like, I think he starts with Gabby and Diaz if we're going with an attacking three, right?
Yep.
Maybe he's the third behind those two, but I still think he starts in some sort of attacking formation with those three, right? It just makes
100%.
their team a lot more dangerous going forward, which is what they need. And don't get me wrong, I think Imon Selouf is a very good attacker, right? But I think Austin Ricci's better. I think Austin Ricci's more consistent.
I think that Vancouver has it. Like they just need to figure out. They need to figure it out, right?
They need to figure it out. Yeah,
they need to figure it out. Like they've not been good on set pieces whatsoever.
No.
I think like
God, no.
and also the early goals that they've been conceding consistently. I think the last three matches, it's been like you've had goals
half the season. Let's be honest.
Real, no, it's true. But just like particularly, like they start every match in the hole, and like so you see that on the first goal. Sorry, I guess we're getting early into the recap.
Oh,
But
we can transition at this point.
All right,
I
we'll
don't
transition. Yeah, like the first goal that Pacific scored, that was what happened there. And then also in the third goal that they scored, it was just terrible work on the set piece. Like they looked like they were asleep. So I think if you can
That's a tough match to lose 3-0, by the way.
Oh, brutal. So bad. Like big ups to Pacific for winning their first match in the Derby. Like it was a really exciting matchup in that, and they're fifth and sixth in the standings after that match, right? Like Vancouver still has the edge as of right now based on goal differential. Is that what it is? Hold on a second.
Vancouver still has the edge on goals for.
There it is. Goals for. So anyhow, it was an interesting matchup to shape up, and I think that's just it. I think adding Ricci is a good addition for Vancouver. Can they fine tune the things that are very much holding them back on the set piece plays and stuff like that? Like I think they play good football, and I think that they did play well against Cavs. Like it's tough to say when a team gets beaten 3-0, but I think that there were elements of play that show that Vancouver is a good squad. I mean, they dominated with regards to possession. The problem just is they're not at all clinical in developing solid chances for themselves.
Yeah, but here's my concern with Vancouver. Okay? 3 matches in a row, they have not scored a goal.
Yeah.
Right? If you go back to the Atletico Ottawa 1-0 victory in Ottawa, then they went home, played York, lost 1-0 at home, and then they head over across the river to Pacific and lose 3-0 there. That's 3 matches you've been outscored 5-0.
Yeah.
And even the match before that, they won 2-1 against Valor. Then they lost 2-1 against Forge. And you go back and they finally won against Pacific 1-0. So they have 2 wins out of the last 6 games. And they're battling for a playoff spot. This consistency is not there.
No, not at all. It's bad. It's bad. And so that's just it. It's tough. Hopefully Ricci is a player who can impact that. I think so.
Yeah.
I think that he is a dynamic player.
He can be. We've seen it.
Exactly.
We've seen it.
So all hope should not be lost, but Pacific, I think, looks to be getting hot. You know what I mean? Like the very bad stretch of games stringing back to August 11th. They'd lost 6 in a row. There was a CanMNT match in there. But like the 3-0 win against Wanderers on the 7th, and then a week later to win 3-0 against Vancouver, all things are looking up for them. So like Vancouver's got to get it together. They have to figure it out, or else like Pacific's coming hot on them. And I think if they can get the momentum going, like they got Wanderers this Wednesday, so that'll be. I'm quite excited for that match. Battle of the bottom feeders a little bit, but like could have big playoff implications when you think about the difference being 3 points, right? Like Wanderers on 23 points, Pacific on 26 points. Could be a pretty big match to see what who the last playoff position goes to,
which
is
a massive
huge.
match. Could be a massive match, and we could talk.
That'd be really.
We talk about the standings, right? Because we're talking about the bottom. Halifax and Valor tied on 23 points. Then you have Vancouver and Pacific tied on 26. But all of those teams are within battling reach of the 5th spot. But let's be honest, that 5th spot is almost cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Because there is a distinct difference between the play quality of the bottom 4 and the top 4. And I'm saying that with Cavs who have struggled this year. I still think
I
the
don't
top
know.
4, including Cavs, have played better football this year than the bottom 4. And I think
The
it's a
Wanderers
distinct
came
difference.
in there. The Wanderers came in there and just absolutely destroyed.
Absolutely.
As Forge came to Halifax.
I'm not saying on any given day that one of the bottom 4 can't beat one of the top 4, but if I'm saying over the season, this is the first season we've seen a massive difference in top 4, bottom 4.
Yeah, it's true. The golf is it's crazy. It's crazy. Between 4th and 5th place is 9 points.
Yeah. And it's a generous 9 points because, in my opinion, you have to not just look at the points, you have to look at everything. And between 4th and 5th place, it's a 17 goal differential difference. Right? And we can laugh about it, but that is a huge, huge difference.
That's true.
Right? If you take Pacific out, who are notoriously a good defending team, the other bottom 4 teams, the lowest goals against that they have is 35. Then you take the top 4 teams, the highest goals against they have is 28. Right? That's a distinct difference in my opinion.
100%.
Right? And yes,
Night and day.
Pacific is ridiculous. They have 23 goals against, but they only have 20 goals for. And that's why they are currently sitting in 6th. That's the problem. Yeah. And we know that about Pacific. Defensively, they're very good. They're the best defensive team in the league. But they have no goal scoring. I'm going a little off topic here. We're gonna kind of adjust, but seeing the goals against with Vancouver having 38 goals against, you have Valor with 37 and Halifax with 35. Does that? I know this kind of is a stupid question, but we talked going into the season about who the top goalkeepers are, and I think off air we talked about it because obviously we didn't have the show at the beginning of the season, but off air we talked about it.
100%.
And when we're talking about the top goalkeepers in the league, we're talking like Carducci, Nate Ingham. Callum Irvin has always been in that conversation over the last 3 years. He's given up the most goals in the league because he's played every match. Let's not forget that, right? He's been in every single CPL match for this side.
Yeah.
And he's played the same amount of minutes as Vincenzini has for York. Same number of matches, same number of matches, same number of minutes. And he's given up 10 more goals. But he's also made 12 more saves because he's faced the most shots in the league.
Yeah.
Do we still consider him a top 3 keeper in this league?
No.
Okay, who moves into that top 3? Because I think the other 2, are we fairly confident with the other 2, or do those change as well?
No. Carducci and Ingham, no questions asked.
Okay.
And then I think that Vincenzini has to move into that. I think he has been crucial for York, and he's made some really, really big saves. And I think, excuse me here for a second.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, if you look at save percentage. Sorry, I was trying to find the exact stat. He's number 2. He's right behind Nate Ingham in save percentage at 68. Right? So I think he 100% has to sneak in there. I think that there is a lot to be said for the fact that the defense has not been very solid for Vancouver.
No, for sure. And that's why I'm asking.
Callum Irving's got the most goals conceded per 90 in the league.
Yeah.
So that's not looking good.
He's given up 5 more goals than the Valor keeper, Viscosi, who, let's remember how poorly Valor played.
Yeah.
And he's given up 5 more goals than that. And I don't think Irving's a bad keeper. I want to make that very clear. I think he's having a bad season.
That's just it.
And I think the team's not performing well defensively in front of him, so I don't think it's all on him. But I would like to throw 2 other names in for potentially sneaking in that top 3 spot. Okay? You gave us Vincenzini, who I think has been very good. I think also York's played very well defensively, so take that with a grain of salt. He's also given up 28 goals. Why don't we look at 2 guys in 2 different parts of the country? Because I'm going to start with Pacific. Emil Gazdoff has looked very, very good this year. I think he has a chance to become a very solid piece in this CPL as one of the top keepers in the league. And then another one, it's kind of a twofer because I think they've both played well. They're both very young. And surprise, surprise, they play for Forge, Kalongo and Kolelat. Both of these kids are very young. Both of them are very talented. Kalongo has surprised me the most this year, so I would put him ahead of Kolelat. But every time I see them play, I'm impressed with them. I don't know if they've pushed into that top 3 yet, but their names are next. You know what I mean? Those 3
100%.
players are all like next in line. And I think they'd be competing with Vincenzini for maybe that 3rd spot if we're taking Callum out of it, for sure. It was just something
100%.
I wanted to bring up. I was just curious about your opinion, Josh. But yeah, the playoff race is hot right now.
It's tight.
Top 4 teams are separated by just 6 points. Bottom 4 teams are separated by 3.
Crazy weekend in that there wasn't the opportunity for a lot of ground to be made up from a lot of different perspectives, right? Like when you look at Atletico and you look at Cavs, Cavs and York United. Sorry, that they had a chance to take a pretty good stronghold of second place, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, York could have cemented themselves as the second best team in the league if they beat Valor the way they've been playing, because that just gives them the step up on Atletico, right?
Yeah,
and Cavs could have reeled Atletico back in and been tied with them on points if they had won. So there's a lot that could have happened this week, and you're right. The 2-2 tie between Cavs and Atletico, one more goal for Cavs, and we're having a different conversation.
Exactly.
But right now, it's Cavs who are sitting in 4th.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes up. Yeah, York did that. Just definitely drop points there. It's an unfortunate match.
Good for Valor. They've been playing well recently. I will give them a ton of credit. Lots of draws, but
the goal that they scored was quite beautiful. They have the best assister in the league in Tammy Antonoglou on their team, right?
Yeah.
So they're stringing it together. So it's there's a lot. The end of this season, I think, will be quite exciting. It'll be very, very exciting because you got some teams that are heating up. I'm gonna say it right now. I don't think Vancouver ultimately makes the playoffs. I think that there's too many things that have to go right for them, and I think that it really comes down to Pacific, Valor, and Halifax for that last spot, and I think that Pacific's gonna walk away with it. They're gonna take 5th.
Interesting. I actually think Vancouver does sneak in. Personally, okay. I think the adding of Ricci will help scoring wise, and that'll keep them in more games just because they're scoring goals. And if you could score goals and you can put up because the 26 goals for ranks them second last in the league. But let's say they add 5 more goals to that, right? They're probably 3 points clear of Pacific right now. So I think you add a little bit more scoring down the stretch. You got games against these 3 teams at the bottom that you're fighting with. And if I'm being honest, let's see. I'm just curious who they have down the stretch. So they play Forge this week. Then they have Cavs, and then they play Halifax and Valor back to back and finish off with Atletico. Right? It's a tough stretch, I'm not going to lie, but you play those 2 Halifax and Valor games, you add a couple more goals, that might be all you need.
I think it's too many things that have to go right. I think that's just it. You have 2 really tough opponents coming up. We'll see if Wanderers can string together a good run. And Valor's been playing well, and then they finish off with Atletico Ottawa. I think it's too tall in order to put in a new attacker into that system, and hopefully that everything goes to plan.
Okay, but hold on. I'm going to counter that because you said you think Pacific's going to run away with it.
Listen.
No. That's the team that you said, right?
Yeah, I think that they've strung together 2 solid performances.
Okay.
In their matches against, they have another big one against Wanderers. Albeit, they also are going to face Atletico Ottawa. They come up against Valor. They got Cavs, York, and they finish off with Forge.
So they have all 4 of the top 4 teams at least once.
Yeah.
And then they play the same 2 bottom teams that Vancouver plays. And Vancouver has the tiebreaker.
I guess I'm basing it off more of current form. But
if we're looking at just competition that they have to play down the stretch, that's where we're at. So just throwing it out there. Anyways, we should move on.
Battle of the bottom feeders, exactly.
Anyhow, we are running out of time here. Let's get to the MLS playoff run because that's going to be an exciting one as well. Because somehow, some way, TFC is in the playoff run, as is Vancouver, which is great. Vancouver's kind of turned it around.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Did you see that goal over the weekend?
It was wonderful. Just like the link-up play was
Team
absolutely
play.
incredible.
Gotta love it.
No, it was beautiful football. That was absolutely beautiful football.
And they've played significantly better over the last stretch here. I think Vancouver's Canada's best chance to go deep into the playoffs. I don't think anyone would argue that. But the fact that TFC is sitting in the play-in game spot, and they'd go up against, if the season ended today, which is not, obviously, we still have lots of games to play, but TFC would play DC United in that play-in game, and then they would turn around and have to face Miami in round one.
Yeah.
So that'd be a tough matchup.
I think I said that. I don't want them to make the playoffs because as a TFC fan, I would just hate every second of having to watch them play more football.
But here's the thing. Humor me for a second here, right? TFC is currently 2 points back of Charlotte and 4 points back of 5th place Orlando and 6th place New York City.
Yeah.
Okay? The teams that are in 1 through 4, we already mentioned Miami, then you have Cincinnati, Columbus, and the New York Red Bulls. If, and there's a big if, I don't think it's going to happen, but let's say TFC jumps to 5th, right? They're 4 points back of Orlando and New York City for 5th. So let's say they somehow jump to 5th, and they're playing the New York Red Bulls in the first round. I feel better about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I do. I'm not happy because I still don't think this TFC team is going to go on a deep run. But if you're a TFC fan, and let's say you can pick up, because they've played 29 games. The other 3 teams have a game in hand that's also going to affect this. But let's say they somehow get into that 5th spot, right?
Yeah.
I call that a win.
That's fair.
That's a win on the season, especially with all that crap that's gone on this year. That's a win.
Yeah.
If you get blown out by the Red Bulls, fine. You get blown out by the Red Bulls, but at least you have a better chance against the Red Bulls than sneaking in against DC United and then having to face Miami.
No, it's a death wish. It's a murder sense.
Whoever wins that 8th spot is done. Let's be honest.
For sure. I think that Herb and his guys are going to give it absolutely everything that they've got, and they've gotten some key pieces back, which has been the biggest thing. I think that it was such a tough spell in the middle of the summer because they did start strong, right? And then you're dealing with injuries, you're dealing with players going away on international duty. There was some behavioral issues, picking up yellow cards and stuff like that, some silly yellow cards and stuff like that. Exactly. But like the return of Alonso Coelho, the performance that they put out against Austin FC was a fantastic full performance.
Yeah,
I think
they played well.
It was a complete performance.
Finally.
So that's just it. It's can we make sure that they can do that consistently and the defense? That's just it. Can the defense hold it together? Like Henry Wingo in the DC United match pissed me off so much because he was just absolutely boneheaded move where he's in his own defensive end. He's playing with the football too much. And anyways, he gives up possession and DC comes going. That was a bad game. But that's just it. I don't know. You're right. Overall, that's just all I have to hope for. I think you want it to be you want to end the season on a positive note, and we'll see what other changes can get made in the offseason. Yeah,
pretty much. Anything else you want to add about the playoff push? Montreal is. They're only 3 points back of DC United for the final play-in spot, but Montreal's out of it. Their minus 22 goal differential is second worst in the East and third worst overall. I don't see this team making a playoff push, but they won their first game since July recently, so.
No, and that was huge. And that was huge that they were able to turn it on, right? So I think that, again, you're looking for a little bit more the moral victory side of things. You want to see the young, because they have a very young
play
squad.
better down the stretch.
Yeah. You want to see more good performances, and we'll see where it goes from there. But no, Vancouver's the best chance. They've been really exciting to watch. Stuart Armstrong, huge addition.
Yep.
The DPs showed up in their last match. So, I'm quite confident with them, and they'll be exciting.
Yeah. Let's just get right to the scouting report. This is your favorite section of the show, I'm sure, Josh, because it is the supporters scouting report, players from around Europe that we want to keep our eye on, or that we have been keeping our eye on and have played well. Do you mind if I throw one out quickly? Nico Sigger, who recently signed with, well, not signed with, but switched allegiances to the Canadian national team and finally played his first game for the side in that Mexico match. This is a kid to watch out for. He's been very good over the last few seasons, and I expect more from him. So to see him make that transition to Canada has been fantastic, and I'm looking forward to that a lot. Also, Promise David signs over in Europe as well. Jonathan David's significantly younger brother somehow. 20 years old. He's a guy to keep an eye out for. Another attacker, unfortunately, which we have a ton of them coming through the system. Someone's going to have to step up and be the next guy. It could be this kid. So somebody to keep an eye on.
Oh, some good young names.
Yeah. What about you? What do you got?
Quick run through. I included like North American
Yeah, all good.
Players playing in North America. So full. We should all keep in mind also that we were coming off of an international break. So a lot of these guys are big names for the Canadian men's national team, for example, were coming off the bench or not playing because, again, they played a lot.
Yeah.
So Kyle Larin, he was an unused sub for Mallorca in a 2-1 loss to Villarreal. Again, he played I don't know how many minutes he tallied in those two international matches, but he played a lot of football. And then the next one, bummed out about how this match turned out because so Marseille played OGC Nice, and it was going to be, I think, a really exciting one to watch for Canadians. That being said, Bombito obviously wasn't playing because he picked up a red card after 2 yellows in the previous previous Nice match, and then Derek Cornelius also received a red card in this one, and you had Ismail Kone come into this one. He's been injured, missed the first 3 matches for Marseille. He came off the bench. There was very little overlap between the two, so it wasn't as exciting. But yeah, Derek Cornelius received a red, so he was out on a really stupid second yellow, just like for simulation. That was absurd.
Yeah.
And De Zerbi voices concerns, but Kone played quite well in his 18 minutes, and he had a good pass in the final third that could have turned into an assist for him. Almost exciting things. Exactly. So that was big. Alphonso Davies came off the bench for Bayern in their 6-1 win over Holstein Kiel. The Bundesliga is just only 2 matches into it, so there's a long season ahead. Theo Baer was an unused sub in a loss to Monaco.
Yep.
And then Liam Miller came off the bench for Hull City against Sheffield United in a 2-0 loss. If we move over to the NWSL, it wasn't necessarily it's not the most exciting supporter scouting report, I should say. Nichelle Prince was still goalless for Kansas City. She played 61 minutes on Friday in a 0-0 draw against the Orlando Pride.
Still trying to find a way into that lineup.
Yeah, it's true. This is true. And then kind of another one that I thought was going to be pretty exciting, where you had the Chicago Red Stars coming up against the Portland Thorns. Julia Grosso's her Chicago Red Stars pulled off the victory here. They won 1-0. Sinclair played 75 minutes. Fleming actually came in for her as a sub. And then Grosso played the full 90 minutes, and she actually had the highest passing percentage in all of the match. So a bright spot there. And then then we move to more exciting stuff. Chloe Lacasse netted her first goal for the Utah Royals in a 2-1 loss to a Sheridan-less San Diego Wave.
Yep.
And then Gabby Carl played well, and she had the most successful tackles in a 3-0 drubbing of the Houston Dash. The Washington Spirit played quite well and picked up a good dub there. So that was what went on in the NWSL for Canadian women's players. And then in the MLS, Jacob Schaffelberg did not dress for Nashville because him and his wife Robin just welcomed their baby daughter Daisy Evelyn Schaffelberg into the world. So congratulations to them. And then Dane Sinclair played quite well against a very bad St. Louis. He made 7 saves in that 3-1 victory. And then Tani Oluise came off the bench. He had 1 shot on target in 13 minutes. And that is your supporter scouting report.
Yeah, and I just want to throw out there, it's not Canadian related, but something that we got to talk about. Morgan's retirement.
Yeah.
One of the best strikers to ever grace the field for the women's game, period. One of the most influential strikers to ever grace the field for the women's game, period. She retires, has her final send-off. I was a little disappointed with how they did it, but...
Yeah, no, an interesting one, but definitely.
You got to give the flowers to those who have changed the game. She definitely changed the game.
100%. You can't understand that whatsoever. No, a huge figure for women's football, just glally, not even just in the United States, and one of the most prolific goal scorers. So
absolutely. Anything you want to add before we head out?
No.
All right. Well, with that is it for us from the supporter section this week. Make sure you check us out on social media, FTSS on all of our social medias. And don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. The button's just like one of these corners. I always forget which corner it's one of these corners on Garage Door Sports Network. And make sure you subscribe on your favorite YouTube channel, or podcasting channel, I should say. We will be back hopefully next week, depending on how things go. We should be back next week. If not, we will make sure we keep you guys posted. Until next time, Josh, it's always been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time,
Thank you
folks.
kindly. Cheers.